our 8-day Morocco tour looked like for only $869. So hey, I'm Shannon. I am a travel planner and travel aficionado. Essentially, I travel as much as we can to as many unique places as possible. And we just spent the last 8+ days in Morocco on a tour, which tours are not really typically our jam when we do vacations, but I am so glad we did it with this one. And I want to go over everything that this one did because I'm blown away by the amount of things that we saw, what was included. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the rundown. We basically, for $869 a person, outside of flights, all of our hotels, our transportation, our tours, almost every meal that we had, cooking classes, tours of Casbahs, you name it, we did it. And I was blown away by it, to be quite honest. So a little taste of what each day kind of encompassed. So the first day, we showed up in Marrakesh at a hotel meeting point. Our driver and our tour guide, both of them were so amazing. Like, they definitely made the tour. If you go on this tour, you've got to get these two as your tour guide and your driver because they were hands down what made this trip incredible, besides the fact that Morocco was incredible. But we started off meeting at our pickup point, and then we got in a really nice, comfortable van. And they took us out a couple-hour drive to Ouarzazate, which is actually where one of the biggest film studios in the world is. And with my husband in the movie industry, that was a really cool place to stop by. We were able to check out where they film things like Gladiator and Game of Thrones. They even put us in a few fun movies, so stay tuned. Those will be coming here shortly. But that was really neat to see. Then we drove the next day a few more hours to get to sort of the base of the Sahara Desert. And we started a 2-hour hike or walk. It wasn't really a hike. We didn't climb a ton, but it was on some desert sand. And we got to our campsite, which we had one campsite this night, and then I'll tell you the other campsite. And it was basically exactly what I expected when we showed up there. It was these really big, large, white, canvasy tents. Our room had a queen size bed, or maybe a double, but double or queen size bed. It had a couch, it had a table. It did have lighting once they turned the generator on, but the lighting was pretty low. There was a toilet and there was a running water sink. So there was access, like easy access for going to the bathroom for the most part and brushing your teeth and stuff like that in the morning. So that was really nice. They had a bonfire at night. They did also stop for us to go to the grocery store on the way. There was alcohol and wine available for purchasing. We were not expecting that. We were able to snag some wine and some champagne and bubbles and some snacks kind of to plan on having on our road trips. So that was a really good stop. Then we slept after our bonfire. We slept and woke up at sunrise to just the most stunning sunrise you could ever imagine. And then we hopped on our dromedaries, which are a one-humped camel in Morocco. And we had about a 2-hour total camel ride. But after about an hour, I think they probably knew we were hungry and our butts were a little bit sore. They had set up a really beautiful picnic lunch for us. They had incredible food, which the food was great. Lots of really delicious fruits and vegetables, and obviously like stews and tangines. So we ate and enjoyed that, relaxed a little bit, closed our eyes as the sun was just, so perfect, and hopped back onto our dromedaries to go to our next camp. Now, this camp was a little more rugged than I think we were anticipating, but it was great. It was such a great experience. They had one really large tent for all of us to be able to sit in, to relax in. We took some naps in there, ate snacks. We ended up having dinner and breakfast there. So that was really cool. And then we had actual little tiny tents that we all slept in that night. I am 6 feet tall. My husband is 6'3". So turning over in the middle of the night was a little tight in our tent situation, but really a great experience. My only advice would be bring warmer clothes than we brought for the evenings and the mornings. Really chilly in the winter in the Sahara Desert, but then it was really nice and warm, about 80 degrees during the day. And then what did we do? Then this toilet situation as well. Also had a toilet. It was kind of almost like a mix of a porta potty. It was an interesting situation, but no running water here. So my other recommendation to bring if you go on this tour is to bring those no water needed toothbrushes that are like this big. That would have been a great lifesaver. We made it work, used water bottles that we had, but that would have been my advice for anybody going. And then we did some jeeping, dune buggy jeeping around. That was great. And we worked our way back to and towards Marrakesh. So we went through Sakura. We went and visited some beautiful kasbahs, a really neat pottery store where you could see how the locals make this beautiful pottery. And as we then ended up back in Marrakesh, we ended up staying at a riad in the middle of the Medina. It was so stunning. If you can stay in a good riad in Morocco or in Marrakesh, I highly recommend it. They're really affordable. It feels like you are in a bed and breakfast, like you're staying with somebody in their home essentially, but it was beautiful and it was a great location. So I'd highly recommend the one that we stayed at. And then we had a cooking class. So we walked around with a tour guide for Marrakesh and we went to all these different stands to get the meat and the garlic and the olive oil and all the ingredients we needed. We came back, we put all of them into our little clay pot, and then we walked back through the city to this spot where you go underground and they have these ovens essentially that you sit your clay pot next to, in the heat for 24 hours in that room cooks your meal. And then the next day we got to have it for lunch and it was so good. Even better, I think, because we made it and it was so different than anything we normally would have. And then we did some tours around some local things. We were supposed to go to the Bahia Palace, but it was closed because they were filming a movie. So we went to the Ben Yusuf, essentially like a college, which was really cool to see. And then we went to the Secret Garden, which was also beautiful. It was really neat to be in the hustle and bustle of the souks and the Medina, and it was loud and motorcycles and people and chatter. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you sort of cross this barrier into the Secret Garden, you were in a secret garden. You couldn't even tell that this city was like right out there. So that was neat. And then of course we got some tours through the souks and the Medinas and got to see different areas and different, like the leather area. There was an area that was so heartbreaking to see, although obviously nothing was happening now, but it's where they used to trade slaves. And so that was just like hearing the stories and yeah, wild to see that happening there. Then we had a little more free time when we were in Marrakesh. We got to go shopping. We ended up choosing to go do a traditional Moroccan hammam spa day. And we just enjoyed the vibe of the city. Marrakesh was a really, really incredible city. So our 8-day tour ended on our final day with going to the Ouzards waterfalls, which were a few hours away. I think it was about a 3-hour drive. We climbed up, I think it was about 740 or 60 stairs. So definitely if you don't like hiking, climbing, uneven surfaces, don't do that. Don't do this part because it was a very unsteady walk, but it was beautiful. Once we got to the bottom and we could see all of the entire waterfall, it was really pretty to see. There are monkeys around. People will try to stuff peanuts in your hand and then make you pay them to feed the monkey, so beware of that. But overall, it was just a really incredible vacation. So if you want more info and more details on booking your own Moroccan vacation or anything with this tour company or really anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I had the best time, hands down, would go back to Morocco in a heartbeat. Loved every minute, loved the people, loved the vibe, loved it. So it was a special place in my heart, but I wanted to make sure I gave you a little more info on what a tour in Morocco could look like.